All right. Hello, viewers. We welcome to Mereba Esset Special Conversations. We have a very special guest today. Our guest today is Thomas Hammarberg. He's member of Parliament in the Swedish House of People's Representatives. He has at various times been ambassador of the Swedish government for humanitarian affairs. He has been the Secretary General of the Save the Children, the Swedish branch. He has been Secretary General of Amnesty International, and he has won the Nobel Peace Prize on behalf of Amnesty International, I think in 1977. Yeah. And he's now, as I said before, member of Swedish Parliament for the Social Democrats, I think. And he has spoken and written about topics as vast as rights of the child, refugee policy, minority issues, xenophobia, human rights, and other related issues. So we have a guest who has a wealth of experience in the topics that we want to talk about in relation to the war on Tigray now. So Thomas, I thought I would start by asking you about your personal journey in this regard and how you became acquainted with the war on Tigray and how did you come to know about it? Because I know that you know the details from the letters that I have written to the foreign minister. I know that you are deeply informed and aware of what is happening. What was it like for you? How did it happen?
Yeah, I haven't been in Ethiopia for several years by now, and of course the pandemic made it impossible also to go there now. So I have depended quite a lot on what I've read and friends among the people who have come from Ethiopia to Sweden. The diaspora here is strong and well informed, and they have helped me to get a picture. And of course, I read everything that is published by those who are on the spot. So, but my real interest goes back to many years when I was with Save the Children, and I visited Ethiopia several times during that period and learned to like the people and also to see what potential there was for doing something very useful for the people there, but also as a model for other countries in the world. So it was quite natural for me to be interested in the situation when I heard and understood that there were real problems starting in January, in last year in November, and has continued since then. And the more I read and the more I discussed with colleagues and friends, I understood that this was an extremely serious situation. Unfortunately, there are some other areas in the world with many problems as well. And so there is a bit of a competition between what problems in the world would be sort of looked into by people in my countries, for instance, and in Europe as a whole. And I found that it was very important that the situation in Ethiopia would not be forgotten and hidden away, because we have relationships in many years. Sweden and Ethiopia really has a bit of a friendship relationship since so many years. And when there is a crisis like we have today in Ethiopia, I think it's very important that we stand up and show our solidarity with the people there. So that was the background and the justification for me to spend quite a lot of time on trying to understand the situation, and also to try to convince our government to give importance to the situation in Ethiopia and try to follow the developments and also be a voice from outside in order to protect the rights of the people there. Of course, my life has been very much influenced by human rights. Human rights is what I've been working on for many, many years. So it was natural for me also to pay an interest into the situation today in Ethiopia.
Yeah, thanks. Interesting. So it must be that background that you have about Ethiopia and about world affairs in general that had prompted you to forward the questions that you did to the foreign minister and the letters that you have written to the foreign minister. And I have read them all, and reading between the lines, I could discern that there is some sort of unhappiness in you, in that you believe the Swedish government could have done more. If that is the right assessment, you'll correct me if my assessment isn't right. Are you on balance, on the whole, happy with how the Swedish government has handled the situation in terms of issuing stern statements? And people would, I think, especially people in the Tigrayan community, would say that the Swedish government in general has been very soft, apart from providing these off-the-shelf, very politically measured statements. It hasn't really committed itself either way, and it could be something to do with the Swedish traditional principle of non-interference. But generally, I think there is a palpable feeling that Sweden could have done and said more. Is that your assessment as well?
I think that the Swedish policy is very much linked to EU, and that they feel that it would be much more important if one could get the whole EU to take a progressive position on this. So much of what has been proposed is actually from the Foreign Office here to the other countries in Europe. And I think the situation would be not so good in Europe if there hadn't been this pressure, at least. But I agree that I would have expected the EU to take more clear positions and to give a lot of priority to the situation in Ethiopia. When it comes to what I and my colleague has contributed to the Foreign Office here, I think we have played a certain role there in order to make them understand how urgent the situation is, that more needs to be done. And I got one response today, in fact, from the Minister for Foreign Affairs on a suggestion I had in a letter to her, that there is a need of concrete actions in order to break the impossibility for people in Tigray to pick up electricity, water. The banks have been closed for them, which means that there will be difficulties for them to get money from the banks if they have savings there, and to buy things. So that has been raised now. Also, I assume it will be raised, if not already done, with the EU. So I think it's good for the ministry and for the politics in my country that they understand that there are some people who go into detail when it comes to the lack of human rights, and this is very clear with these things. There is also a deep concern about the lack of food and the starvation, which has spread in Tigray quite a lot, and even children have been affected badly, and I've seen horrific statistics about how many children are in danger of not being able to survive because of they have not got food. There is a starvation there. So that's a major concern actually now, to secure that the humanitarian needs are really met. Then of course there is a political dimension of this, which will have to come up. And first of all, I think it's important that one understand that those who have committed serious crimes during this war, including what they have done to women, with the rapes which have taken place, which on a massive scale, of course, that needs to be addressed afterwards. And these are crimes against humanity, in my opinion. So that has to be dealt with. But at the same time, there is also a need to discuss a solution to the conflict itself. And there, so far, it seems that there has not been any really progress in the country itself. And I think that is a situation where there will be a need for the world outside to offer to be of assistance when it comes to trying to help in finding a solution to the conflict itself, because this cannot go on. And there is a lot of experience in other countries as well, as you know, and this should be shared with those who can influence the situation in Ethiopia today. So there's a lot to be done, both on the political side to offer support, but for the moment I think we focus a lot on the humanitarian dimension. The starvation must stop. There must be a possibility for people to start again, and further killings of any kind cannot be accepted. And those who commit such crimes, they should be made aware that one day they will be held responsible.
Indeed, indeed. Thomas, you mentioned the world outside, and by that I think you mean the international community in general outside the EU. And the international community has indeed been issuing these periodic statements, calling all what they call belligerents to sit down and do negotiation instead of trying to resolve the conflict in militarily. But there is a sense that the international community could have done more. It's now 10 months of devastation and catastrophic disaster unfolding in Tigray, and there doesn't, like you alluded to, there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel. The parties don't seem to be ready for negotiation, apart from the Tigray government. The Tigray government, I think, if the conditions that they have issued are met, they are ready for negotiation. But as far as the Ethiopian government is concerned, they haven't shown any interest for negotiation, and I think they have been emboldened by the fact that the international community doesn't seem to be ready to do anything apart from issuing these statements. Do you think that the international community in general has been complacent in this regard? Do you think that they could have done more? And do you have any, given the wealth of experience you have in working with international organizations that deal with this kind of crisis, do you have a word of advice that you could impart to them?
This situation would normally be an area where the United Nations would take a lead. Some of the UN agencies on the development side have tried to be active there, but when it comes to the political aspect, there has been very little coming out, and probably almost certainly this is a consequence of the position of the leading countries in the Security Council. And it's very sad that there hasn't been a possibility there to secure that this would have been on the top of the Security Council agenda and that action would have been taken. That has unfortunately not happened. And therefore, of course, when it comes to what we can do, we turn to the European Union and hope that they will take a more clear position, an informed position, and the combination of humanitarian assistance, but combined with also trying to see or seek ways to secure that there will be a positive end to this conflict, and that the protection of people's human rights will be re-established, so that this will not happen again, and that those who have committed the serious crimes now will actually have to be held responsible. So now I think too little has been going on, and I really hope that those who really decide within the United Nations, I know the Secretary General would like to have a more active UN position here, but he doesn't have the fullest support from those who have the real power in the United Nations. I think also there would be good if there would be more active voices from African states than have been so far. I don't want to point finger, but really it would be useful to have a strong position there, because what happens is that the countries outside Africa, they listen very carefully. Is this something that the other countries in Africa wouldn't like us to touch on? So there'd be a sort of chain effect if there is such a silence that we have in Africa today. Many governments could speak up. They are not doing it, and this has a bad impact in United Nations and also in other parts, in Europe, for instance, other parts of the world. So there are many who should take more responsibility.
Yeah, indeed. So you're talking about how the international community should and could have done more, politically speaking. But I think one aspect where the international community has done a commendable job, at least in my assessment, is in its humanitarian wing. I think organizations like the US aid, for instance, and Doctors Without Borders and other Amnesty International itself, an organization that I don't know if you are affiliated with them even now, but you were at some point at least, and Human Rights Watch in terms of documenting the atrocious crimes that have been committed. I think they have done a commendable job, but it hasn't been without an issue there as well. The Ethiopian government has accused them of various shenanigans, right? So, for instance, it has accused Doctors Without Borders of being engaged in military activities in terms of smuggling in weapons, for instance. It has accused Amnesty International of sensationalizing stories, for instance. It has accused Human Rights Watch of planting evidence and writing stuff that hasn't happened. So all humanitarian organizations have found themselves at the receiving end of some bizarre allegations on the part of the government. Now, as someone who has been involved in this kind of work with international organizations, when you read about these kind of silly and bizarre allegations against these organizations, what do you feel as a person who know that they are trying to save people, who know that they are trying to do the best? How do you react to that kind of absurdity?
It's very serious. And in fact, some of them have been banned from working on the humanitarian side. One example is Norway organization, the Norwegian Refugee Council, and which is a very respectable and interesting organization with a lot of experience. They were blocked, and they were not allowed to be in the country itself. And I think that should not be accepted. And other countries also, as you mentioned. Within the non-governmental world, there are sort of two groups. One is focusing on trying to get the facts and to present that so that the politicians and others can react on the realities, not on rumors and their own propaganda. And the other side is those who really focus on trying to reach the people that are under threat and starving or suffering from other reasons. And both of them are extremely important. And one of the sad aspects, I feel, is that they haven't got sufficient and enough support from their home country governments or from the international community in general. They do deserve that. And in fact, some of the humanitarian work has been sabotaged by blockades and other aspects which have made it very difficult for them to do what they want to do. There is now a discussion going on about trying with airplanes sort of bridge to reach into Tigray with material that people need. And I hope that that would be a possibility, either to open up and getting in more needs there, for instance, food and other important aspect for people to survive, but maybe also that it would sort of make so embarrassing for those on the other side in the conflict that they realize that they cannot go on, and make it necessary possible to reach starving people only via airplanes, and would not be allowed to come the normal way. And so that sort of be a solution that way as well. But it's clear that the aware international opinion, they are upset about that situation, that one prevents starving people, including children, not to get what they need to have just for political reasons. That's not acceptable.
Indeed. Is there any historical parallel where humanitarian aid organizations were accused of doing something that they are not supposed to do? Can you point to how they got around the problem? Or is this unprecedented? Because to me, it looks like something that is unprecedented, for instance, for a government to accuse the Norwegian council, for instance, of smuggling in weapons to rebel groups. I don't think it has ever occurred before. Have there been anything that you could relate to this, Thomas?
Not really. There may have been some cases of that kind many years ago, but this is very, very rare. Actually, I cannot think about any such case for many years. Usually, when there is a serious situation of this kind, all the political dimensions would have to step back and have stepped back. But again, I think it depends rather much on how governments in the world, the other governments, how they respond, how active they are. So that's another good reason for them to rethink their passive approach to the situation in Ethiopia today.
Yeah. So I don't think it's lost on you that the war is being presided over by a prime minister who has won the Nobel Peace Prize I think it would have been some 3 years ago now. And you yourself are, in a way, laureate of the Peace Prize as well. How do you feel when you see someone who shares that kind of prize, and you know the magnitude and the weight of that kind of prize, using that to justify what some people are calling genocide, and definitely starvation, for man-made starvation and other biblical atrocities? Do you think, as many people do, that the Nobel Peace Prize is being cheapened in a way, is being desecrated when people who carry that award are using it for very nefarious purposes?
Yeah, this is a tragic thing, because the prize is really a prize for peace. Sometimes they give to human rights people, people who work for human rights, but it is because they have realized so far that human rights is very important for peace. And peace is the sort of the nature of this prize, and it was created in order to support every good efforts for peace, and to see that someone who received the prize and also very quickly after is involved in full-scale war with a lot of suffering from among people in that country, that we haven't seen before, is very tragic. Of course, there has been some discussions in Scandinavia, because we in Sweden we also feel some sort of friendship, because the price is sort of connected to money that has come originally from Sweden. Whether one should ask the committee in Oslo to withdraw the prize. Now we have realized that that isn't possible in their rules. They have certain rules that have they cannot pull back something that they have handed out. So that doesn't work. But of course, this is very sad, and it's surprising that the one who receives such a prize would not be understand what it really means, and that activities of this kind would actually also undermine, or tend to undermine, the prestige of these awards. I think there are quite a number of former awardees who feel that this is very sad and don't describe the image that I have received from this, that kind of reaction. So, yeah, this is an aspect that are bound to be discussed, and will be discussed in the future as well.
I think many people understand that they are in a very tricky situation, because they don't want to be political. It's understandable, and they can't, as a matter of procedure, they can't revoke an award that they have given out, as you mentioned. So in that respect, I think people understand why. But something that has been very difficult to understand for most of us is, why is it that they have failed to issue a statement, even saying that they have been concerned, or saying that they didn't expect that the person that they had awarded would go on to do such a thing. They have been totally burying their head in the sand, and for me and for many people, it's very difficult to understand why they wouldn't issue a statement. Do you? I don't know, maybe you wouldn't feel comfortable talking about this, but do you understand why they chose to remain silent?
Yeah, I know that they refer to their own statute, saying that they should not make comments on the work by the rewardees after they got the prizes. Only what they says that their part ends with the prize handing over, and they will not comment in any direction, they say. And they refer to a statute, and so it's a formal approach they take to this. The sad aspect of this is that their voice will be quite important in this situation. But that's the position they've taken.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want you to put in a difficult spot, but I have seen many people argue that they should change their bylaws in terms of not giving an award to somebody who hasn't done enough. For instance, they shouldn't give awards in advance. The award should be in recognition of something that has already been done. And if they do that, they wouldn't be in a difficult position that they are in now, for instance. And they should be in a position to revoke an award if it has been disrespected or desecrated in the manner that it has been disrespected in Ethiopia now. So there are those people who recommend those kind of change to the manner the award is given. Do you have any opinions on that, or if you don't, we can jump to the next issue? I'm just giving you an opportunity to be philosophical here.
I mean, this is my private opinion, and I haven't checked it with anyone in my country or my colleagues. But when you look at the way they have handed out the prizes many times have been a sort of combination of what they have done has been good, but they also hope that the prize would help this person to continue, or organization to continue. So it will be a little bit of an investment in further activities. Obama, for instance, when he got the prize, he had hardly done much, and he said it himself that I really don't think I have now sort of made something that would be reasonable as an argument for him to have the prize, but I will do my best, something like that, he said. And also when it comes to the Middle East, a couple of times the leaders of Israel and the Palestinians have got the prize, and there was also with the hope that the prize would sort of build for further possibilities to have an agreement. That agreement never came, and I think that if I was a member of that bureau, the group that decides on the prize, I would not give the prize on the basis of hopes what they would do in the future, because there would be problems there, but only look at what they have really achieved so far. And so in that sense, I agree with actually the point that you made there, that would be better. But this is sort of very much beyond my capacity or my possibilities to influence. You know, those people there in the committee taking the decisions, they are very loyal to the statute, because the statute was, of course, based on the Swedish background. So it's a bit complicated also between Norway and Sweden.
No, I only wanted to hear your personal opinion, and I think I have got that. It was interesting, but I have one or two questions, Thomas, and I will let you leave because I know that you are in a hurry, so I shouldn't hold you up. But if we could return to Amnesty, an organization that you know in detail because of your previous affiliation. You will have read the report that they have released, I think about 2 weeks ago, detailing extremely disturbing and indescribable sexual crimes against women, gang rape, sexual slavery, and other kind of horrors of biblical proportions. It was shocking that people would do such a thing now. But I want to ask you what kind of leverage that Amnesty International have, apart from releasing and writing those reports. Do you think they could push for investigations, for instance, to be conducted based on those findings? Like, how do the different actors in different international bodies, like in the UN and other political leaders, react to reports by international organizations like Amnesty International? Or I suppose I'm trying to ask you, what is the significance of the report in terms of the other bodies? Do they use it as an input?
So Amnesty has a positive reputation. Very rarely they make mistakes in an area where it's not easy to get the facts, because you have to go into situations where it's difficult to find people who are ready and prepared to tell the truth, because they are afraid that those in power will come and punish them if they say such things. So, and in spite of the problems in order to obtain such information, they have managed in several situations, and this was really one such situation. I think that report was particularly important because it focused on one aspect that had been mentioned a bit by some before, but it wasn't so deep in the scope of it, and also the consequences for the individuals, and therefore it had a very special impact, in my opinion. And I really feel that the international community, and again, United Nations not least, but also others, should take it up and say, this is absolutely not tolerable. It cannot be accepted. There must be something that is done to stop this, and to, of course, again, hold those who are responsible to justice. But more than that, there should be, from the highest political level, very clear positions that this is never to be accepted. And it's a shame that it has taken place in our country, they hopefully would say. So that was an important report because it was so detailed and had been. This is an area where it's very difficult for organizations to get people to speak out because they're so damaged. Those who are suffering from this treatment, and some of them, the rate of people taking their own lives, suicide, is very high among those who have suffered such treatment and scared and important really to be brought out. And now the next is governments must react.
Yeah, indeed, they must react. And you will have heard that the Ethiopian government, they blithely rejected and dismissed every allegation that was made by the report. And it's crazy the amount of impunity, the sense of getting away with murder that has permeated Ethiopian government is shocking. And I think the only result that we have is for the international community to understand that there is that sense and to intervene, if not to give justice to those women, to make sure that similar things don't happen in the future. But my final question, Thomas, and I'm sorry I have taken more time than I had thought. I will let you say, by way of advice to the different bodies, be it to the Ethiopian government, to the EU, to the other international bodies, what do you think should be done to make sure that this horrible and horrific atrocities and devastation comes to an end as soon as possible? What do you believe should the different bodies do now?
On the spot, the most important thing would be that those with power really take a clear position, and they have, of course, a moral responsibility for what's going on, and they must be informed that that is the case, and they should, of course, use their authority and their power to stop this. So that's the first thing. We know that may not happen if we are realistic, and therefore there is a need of the international community to care, to continue to see what's going on, and to take initiatives. They have possibilities of using it. Sometimes in other situations they could use it here as well. So the international community, governments not least, but also the international organizations should act. And of course there are two major dimensions here. The suffering must stop. So the humanitarian aspect, it's absolutely key. And those who are starving now and may not survive, their lives are already very threatened, of course. And at the same time, I think that it goes at the same time. There is a need of reason to find the solution and to listen and to stop this war. So these two are extremely important, both of them, and they are connected, of course. We realize that, but it doesn't mean that the humanitarian actions will have to stop, have to wait. The humanitarian cannot wait. There is no waiting time at all available there. So that has to take place today, and as long as needed. It will take a bit longer time, probably, to find a political solution to the crisis, but that is also absolutely crucial. Mobilize to give importance to this situation and not forget Ethiopia and the very difficult situation the whole country is in now. And it's not only in Tigray. There is also a spreading effect, which makes it even worse, of course.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for coming on and giving us your wonderful insights into different aspects of the crisis. And I appreciate you trying to push the Swedish government and the other bodies to act. So we are very grateful for that. But tack så mycket for tonight, and I hope we'll
Thank
meet another time. Yeah.
Yes.
Enjoy your
Thank you.
evening. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.